Hello everyone, welcome to this webinar on GMAT timing and pacing strategy. Before I get started, I would like to know whether you can hear me loud and clear or not. So if you can put a quick yes, hi, hello on the chat box, let me know if you can hear me clearly and we can get started. You can also, by the way, while you're here, let me know what kind of timing strategy, what kind of timing issues are you facing? What are your expectations from this session? Is there anything specific that you would like me to cover? Anything at all? Feel free to put it in the chat box, and I'll be more than happy to take it up during this session. Hey, Ashish, happy Halloween. What about the others, guys? If you can hear me, play a quick yes. Oh, hey Alex, how are you? Okay, what I'll do, I'll give a quick introduction myself. In the meantime, since a few people are joining, I'll very quickly tell you about myself. So those of you who are attending my webinar for the first time, my name is Saqib. I am the co-founder of GMAT and GRE Viz. Uh, And I've been mostly involved in building the product, the GMAT product, the GMAT intelligence that you see on the platform. Those of you who haven't tried it, I would highly recommend taking a look at it. It's a pretty personalized and intelligent course offering. Apart from that, I've been in the tech industry for a long time. It's now close to 11 years now. I love teaching Quant. I love talking about strategy. I've taken the GMAT myself. I have a 760, the GMAT with the perfect 51 and a V40. And those of you from India, I'm sure you must be knowing about CAT. I've taken the CAT also with a 99 percentile in CAT too. Uh, so that's briefly about me. Once again, welcome to this webinar. Hi Raj, hi Sampath, hi Suresh. I'll quickly set up the agenda, let you know what we are going to cover in this session, so that if you have anything else, if you want me to take it up, do let me know. So we'll start by talking about some strategies. Okay, now when I say some strategies, what do I mean by that? I mean some strategies which are typically used by a lot of students while taking the GMAT, or when they start their prep, or when they're in the mock phase. What kind of different strategies do they use? And I'll also talk a bit about what you think about those strategies. I'll take your opinion on it, and I'll tell you which strategies are good, which strategies are not. Um, once we talk about the strategies that I use, as I told you, I'll talk about some strategies which I think is recommended. I'll talk a bit about my own personal experience. I'll also talk about the students who have done well at GMAT quiz, what kind of strategy have they used. Uh, and then post that, I also, since if you want to understand about the algorithm, about the timing, it's very important to also understand how the algorithm works. If you don't have a good clarity on that aspect, like when do you get easy questions, medium questions, what happens when you don't perform well in the initial few sections, how does our timing change based on the algorithm, is something that I think it's very important to talk about, because I've seen people change their strategy drastically once they come to know about a few things, a few myths, and a few things that is talked mostly about in the GMAT industry. So yeah, I'll be touching up on that aspect. I know one question which is pretty common. When students on the mock phase, they come and ask me, hey Saqib, how do I reduce my time? I'm not being able to complete my verbal section. I kind of end up around the 30th question, my time runs out and I have to mark my last 4 5 questions very quickly. What should I do? There are people who come up and say, I'm finishing up my exam quickly. I think I'm marking everything correct, but still I'm not getting a right score. So what's happening here, right? So I'm going to try to cover both the extremes. I'll also help you understand how to reduce time. I'll also talk a bit about how you should, use your time judiciously. What's the best way to optimize your time? Okay, so these are some things that I'm definitely going to cover. And I can see in the chat box, it's mentioned that I have last quarter of questions with only, yeah, exactly. So I'm going to cover this aspect. Don't worry. This is something which a lot of students have a problem with, that they are left with, 6 minutes, 6 questions. So what ideally you should do in those cases is something I'm definitely going to take up. Uh, Also, at the end, if you have any questions, I'll try to summarize it, and I'll take up any questions that you may have on it. But keep in mind, the Q&A is not only for the end. In between, if you feel that you have any questions on the topic that we are talking about, please feel free to ask. Okay, please feel free to ask your queries. If I feel that it is relevant, pertinent to the discussion that we are having, I'll take it up then and there. If not, I'll definitely answer that question at the end. So no worries about that. Or I'll try to answer all your queries. Okay. I want the session to be as interactive as possible. So please feel free to respond. Even if the question that I'm asking, if you don't know the answer, just take a guess. I think that would be helpful. So let's get started, guys. So first thing, as I told you, is I'm going to start off by verbal because I know that's some of the primary problems a lot most of the students face. So let's talk about what are the type of strategies people use. Now, mostly what I've seen is when people are done with the course and they start their mock, they come up with two different strategies, and they ask me about the opinion on this. One is a pretty linear strategy where you have 65 minutes, 36 questions, and you say I'm going to divide it equally. I'm going to give 16 minutes each to each quarters, and I should be able to do well in it. And after every 9 questions, they kind of check whether they have sufficient amount of 48 minutes left or not. After 18 questions, 32 minutes left or not, and so on and so forth. That's one strategy that a lot of people would like to use. The other strategy which I've seen, and I'll talk about why people use this strategy a bit later, but they want to make sure, because they know that's an adaptive algorithm, they want to give as much time as possible. So you are very cautious. You don't want to make any mistakes in the first 16, 17 questions. You think, hey, if I do really, really, really well here, maybe I'll be able to get a very good score. So let me give as much time as possible to the first 18 questions. Okay. And if you do this, if you spend about 40 to 50 minutes in the first 18 questions, you can understand you'll have just about 15 minutes, 20 minutes left for the remaining 18 questions. So these are the two strategies people come up with. Now, I have a question for you. Uh, what do you think out of these two strategy, which one makes more sense? Which one would you choose? Or would you choose neither of them? And once again, this is an interactive session, so feel free to answer. Don't worry if you get the answer wrong. Also, these are, as you can see, it's strategies. There's definitely not one correct answer to these. Okay, so Nirmala Sampath says first linear. Suresh says linear. Nirmala depends. RC requires more time. Interesting aspect. RC requires more time. So, are you trying to say linear strategy won't work, Nirmala? Miguel says linear pacing. One, because the latter strategy would make you guess a lot at the end. Neither. Linear. Okay. Uh, okay. Most of them kind of, in my opinion, go with the linear strategy initially. I'm not saying it's a correct strategy or the wrong strategy. I've seen a lot of people think that this would work. Now, but I would, as I told you, you need to understand the algorithm a little bit to understand which timing to you need to use. Okay. And Sampath and Nirmala pointed out that it depends where RC is also coming. So you might have to change your strategy also a little bit, which is a fair point because, and like Quant, where you have, just PSDS, you can take 2 minutes per question. Here, things change a lot once an RC comes somewhere in between the two quarters and you don't know what to do. But a lot of people, in fact, a lot of people choose start heavy also. And let me tell you why they do that. Dhaval says pace naturally. Uh, Easier questions or on topics that one will know. That's a good point, Dhaval. That's a very interesting point, and that is usually what I also advocate. But how do you manage that is something which I'm going to talk about a little bit. What can you do to pace naturally? How do you go about? There's still a little bit of timing strategy that you can still create. Okay. Oh, Rajiv, we are also just getting started. I was just talking about two strategies. I'm just going to talk about which one works. So don't worry, you haven't missed a lot. Um, so the second strategy, where you start heavy, if you a lot of people want to prefer that because as I said, they think that is an adaptive quiz. If I keep on doing well in each and every question, then I would get difficult questions and my score would be higher if I am able to answer hard questions correctly. So that's kind of a thought process. Now what I have in front of me is something which is an ESR, an enhanced score report, which you get when you take the exam. If you want a report, you can get this kind of a report, which kind of tells you how many mistakes you have made in each and every quarter. So here, if you see, let me just use my, oh, okay, give me one sec, guys. I'm not using the right place. Uh, yep, I think we're all set now. Okay. So if you see 25% somewhere, okay, that basically means you have made two mistakes in the first quarter. Okay. If it is 29% also means two mistakes in the first quarter. Obviously, this is easy to understand. Zero, no mistakes in the third quarter, and 38% roughly means uh, three mistakes in the third quarter. So all in all, you're making seven mistakes, and even with seven mistakes, you're ending with a very good score, which is 41. Right, it's a good score. And a lot of people would argue and say that, hey, Saqib, since we are making lesser number of mistakes in the first two quarter, that is why he's getting this. So let me use this strategy. Let me go with the start heavy strategy. Let me try and get at least 7, 8 correct in each quarter. Okay. But as someone pointed out, that if I do this, there's a problem, right? What's going to happen here? Can I afford to make a lot of mistakes here? Will I be able to finish 18 questions in say 20 minutes or 15 minutes? Will I be able to do that? Is it okay if I do just 10 questions correctly? So there are a lot of problems with this methodology. I hope you can understand. But one thing that that is important here is that a lot of people believe that they need to do well in the first two quarters, at least the first three quarters. And I just want to first of all make you understand this part, how important it is. Uh, and this is an interesting question. I would love to know opinions of people who are attending this kind of strategy webinar for the first time. So you can see with seven mistakes, you end up with a 41, right? Now I'm just going to show you another ESR out here. Okay. Notice here the difference between these two. Where's my pen? Yeah. So if you notice the difference between these two, you'll notice that the only difference is here that instead of making two mistakes, I've made four mistakes here. Okay. Two more mistakes here. But I've done well here. Notice I've just made one mistake here. And the third and the fourth quarter is almost identical. Uh, can anyone guess, what is this score? How much has this student scored with 8 mistakes? And this is we just trying to establish how important is the first two quarter, and should we really give a lot of time to the first two quarter? Does it make sense, or should we go with the linear strategy? Should we use something else? What should we do? Um, to understand that, I would want you to also understand the importance of these two quarters. That's where we are discussing going a bit deep into this algorithm part. So what do you think? What would be the score for this student? With 7 mistakes, I got a 41. With 8 mistakes, okay, the whole 36, Suresh 36, 34, 38, 33. Anyone else? Okay, okay, let me show you the score. This guy, the only mistake that the student made was he got two more questions wrong in the first quarter. Just there's a difference of just one mistake. And look at the score. I would have never guessed this. In fact, this was the PHR with Piyush showed me, and I kind of guessed the same thing, like the way you are guessing. I was like, okay, one mistake, maybe 50% or 35. I was kind of guessing in those direction, but I was surprised after looking at this number. What about you? What's your take on this? Surprised? You were like, okay, understood. I think Alak is the only one who was pretty close to it, 31. Um, but most of you, like me, thought that 34, 35 would be the score that you would get. So what do you think, guys? Are you surprised by this? More worried? Are you now thinking that should I really use the first two quarters kind of a strategy where I give more time to it? Those of you who were saying linear strategy, would you now change your answer and say that you would want to go for the second option now? You want to say that? Do you want to start heavy after looking at this? Um, that's not necessary that he showed consistent weakness in one or two topics. That is not necessary. That's a slightly wrong inference, in my opinion. I'll talk about what made the difference. Don't worry about it. But we cannot say for sure just one topic. Okay. While giving 2 to 3, I guess we made mistakes in the easy question. The score decreases. Good point. But nobody's answering my question. What would you do? Would you still start heavy, or would you follow the linear strategy after looking at this? Otherwise, would you still say I'll go with the flow? Okay, Nirmala is asking, is it possible the question rated hard or very hard placed in the beginning? I'm going to answer that question in the next slide. I think it's in the next slide only. I'll show it to you, Nirmala. Don't worry. Okay, would invest a bit more at the beginning. And believe me, a lot of people end up saying like this only, that I would want to go heavy. I want to make sure that I would spend 20, 25 minutes in the first two quarters. I am not taking any chances. I want my first two quarters to be, as perfect as possible, which is understandable. And that is why I wanted to show you this. By the way, there are multiple other variations also, which I'm not going into it. I'm just taking extreme cases. Understand, between 7 and 8 mistakes, somebody might even end up getting a 34, 35 also. This is just one of the scenarios that I'm just trying to explain, that what may happen if you don't start well in the starting. Now, uh, in the third quarter. Yeah. See, look, understand. That's why I said I know it's very difficult to get 100%. I'm not asking you guys to replicate these two ESRs or any of these ESRs. Okay, I exactly had the in my if I show you my ESR, I have exactly the same number of mistakes. I have a 40. Okay, so people with maybe where this 50 mistake may end up getting a 34 also. Possible. It is possible. Okay, how is this possible is something that I'm going to talk about in the next slide. So, what is it that you really need to understand out here is that, and Nirmal, I'm going to answer your question now, is if you notice, this is the guy, student who got a V30 and versus V41 here. So notice one thing, that you usually start around the middle, somewhere here. Okay, you start around the middle. I'm not sure whether I'll be able to draw a straight line. And by the way, I have two screens, so I might be looking the other way, the other side. So don't worry. I'm just trying to make sure that I try draw a straight line. So as you can notice that you usually start off somewhere here in the middle, but how you perform in the first quarter kind of affects a lot on what's going to happen in the second one. So notice, if you make 4 mistakes out here, your second quarter is, and by the way, notice your average difficulty is this green one, is somewhere here only. Okay, versus this, where if you get 2 mistakes only or lesser than that, then your graph moves up. So what happens is that the person who's getting a V41, he or she is getting more chance in the second and third quarter to score more, because you're getting hard questions. If you get those correct, obviously you'll be rewarded a lot. If you start off low, if you start getting easier questions because you made a mistake, and if your overall accuracy decreases, then I hope you can understand that it will be very difficult for you to pull it off and then reach. By the time you reach your fourth quarter, you would not get the opportunity as someone who has got more questions correct in the first two quarters. So now I'm getting my average difficulty level is high. In fact, I've drawn a line here. You'll be able to see the difference out here. Notice the difference. Okay, let me rub this out. Notice the difference, guys, in the second quarter. It's a huge difference, right? Somebody's starting from here, and you're starting somewhere here. Even if I look at overall difficulty level also, it's still a huge gap. So this, I hope, is kind of established that yes, the first quarter, second quarter matters a lot, how you perform in it. So it is important for you to make sure that you do well in it. But I hope you understand from this aspect one important thing, that just knowing how many questions you can get incorrect or correct, I can, so a lot of questions come, students ask me, how many questions can I get incorrect and still end up with a V40 or a V41 or V42? That's very difficult to answer, because where would you be making those mistakes would determine what kind of scores you get. So you might, with a 7 mistake, end up with a 93 percentile, with the 8 mistake end up with a 58 percentile, and with a 9 mistake might end up with a 26 percentile also. So where are you making the mistake will determine what kind of questions you will get. And so just focusing on the overall accuracy, and just asking yourself how many, I just need to make 7 mistakes, so let me make, I'm okay, I'll be able to do that, is wrong. You might be able to make the 7 mistakes by, for example, let's go back a bit. Maybe, say, for example, you might make 5 mistakes here. In fact, let's say 75-25, you get 2 correct here. You get 2 correct here, and you make, 6 mistakes here, let's say. And let's say you make 2 mistakes here, you make 8 mistakes. Or let's say you make 1 mistake here. After that, you get everything correct, 100%, 100%. Doesn't matter. Because as you can understand from the difficulty level graph, if you start very low, if you get 6 mistakes, you'll be starting somewhere here, and it'll be very difficult by the time to reach the fourth quarter. You can still see there's a huge difference. Even the third and fourth, which was exactly the same, there is a lot of difference. You're still hovering in the medium part, while for somebody who's scoring a medium hard is already way above medium hard. Okay, I'm pausing. Yeah, look at some of the few questions, but the summary, guys, here is two. Number one, the first two, three quarters are important. This, especially the initial first quarter is definitely important. And don't think about the overall accuracy. Never ask this question. It's a very wrong question to ask. Accuracy is not the answer. Just knowing how many you can get correct or incorrect you'll never be able to figure out what to do. Okay. I can see Dhaval is saying I'll go with the flow because being cautious, deliberately slow. Okay, I'll also talk about slow. A lot of people, so sometimes we get misinterpreted when we say, hey, you need to go slow. What do I mean by slow is also something I'll talk about. But yeah, going with the flow is a good point. Somebody's asking, what should be the accuracy of easy, medium, hard level for a V36? What is the chance RC will appear before SC and CR and vice versa? Okay, so I'll take up both these questions because these are this is something which I can answer now only. So as far as RC is concerned, there's no fixed pattern as such. I have students who have come up and told me that my first question was an RC. I have students who have come up and told me that I was in my last quarter, and my last four questions were in RC and did have time for it. So you can expect most of the RCs to one RC per quarter, which I know you already know that. But where would that RC be? Is something it's very difficult to predict. It could be your eighth question. Your first RC could come around seventh question, sixth question. It could be your first question. Your last RC could be your 30th question. It could be your 32nd question also. So that is something, Nirmala, which you will not be able to predict at all. So trying to create a strategy based on your expectation of where the RC would come is wrong. Okay, let me put it that way. And but I have a table on this, that what should be the accuracy and how many questions you would get if you are hoping for a V36 also. So I'll take up that question. I do have a table on this. So I hope till this point it is pretty clear that we need to do well in the first quarter, first two quarters especially. I know I haven't still answered the question about linear and this. I know you're looking for that answer, but I'm going to give you that answer. Don't worry. Now, if you look at this ESR, what can you infer from this? In fact, I have a few more ESRs also. Okay, I think I have it in Quant. What do you think about this ESR? What do you think? How important is the last two quarter? He's done pretty well, I think, right? Just one mistake here and no mistakes here. What do you think is the importance of this? How important is it? Okay, I'll give you options. I don't see anyone responding in the chat box. So do you think it's more important in the first two quarters? Do you think the last two quarters is equally important in the first two quarters or less important than the first two quarters? Or let's say the last quarter. Last quarter has done pretty well if I want to focus on the just last also. That's absolutely true. I do understand the fact that the performance in the last quarter did help him salvage something. There's no doubt about it. If the last two quarters would have been bad, then you wouldn't have been able to score a 34 also. But think in terms of mistakes. This guy has just made um, uh, 5 mistakes. Just 5 mistakes. Okay. People are getting with 7 mistakes 40, 41. And with 5 mistakes, if I'm getting a 34, I can clearly say, na, ki, yeah, this the last two quarters would make would obviously make some contribute to the final score, but it would not contribute as much as the first two quarter would. If I would have had a 14% and a 0% here, and a 14%, 38% here, there's a very good chance that I would have got a better score. Definitely a good chance that you would have scored more than 34, that I'm sure of. Okay, so obviously the last two quarters are not that important as compared to the first two quarters. So if you go with the linear strategy, uh, it will not work, right? Because understand, you are getting, if you're doing well, say for example, if you're looking for a V 41 or 40, you would start getting medium hard hard questions along in second and third quarter. Okay. And here usually you'll start off with medium questions. So does it make sense to give 16 minutes to medium question also, 16 minutes to medium hard question also, 16 minutes to hard question also? Tell me, is this logical? What do you think? And I'm talking from the perspective of, if you're looking for a Q40, 41, V40, 41, would this make sense? Definitely no, right? It will not make sense because everybody knows that in medium hard and hard questions, you would need a little bit more time to do those. Those are difficult questions. You cannot expect to do each question 1 minute, 50 seconds or 2 minutes. Not possible. So if you go with this strategy, you're making a mistake. Same problem is this one, by the way. Understand the first two quarters are important, but it doesn't mean that you can just spare 20 minutes for the last two quarters. You are spending 20 to 25 minutes for medium questions. Again, a very wrong strategy. Okay, so we should not do that. We should spend, as Dhaval mentioned, we have to go with the flow. You have to spend the right amount of time. And again, don't worry if this seems vague and you'll say, hey, Sakib is saying right. What does he mean by that? I'll come to that. Don't worry. But I hope you still understand that if it's a medium level versus hard level, I would need to give more time to hard than and medium hard than medium. That I think should be pretty clear, right? So these strategies are not recommended. And there's a very good argument, which a lot of people come. I won't say the good argument. A lot of people argue with this fact, and they say that if you don't have a good accuracy in medium question, it also doesn't make sense. We give more time for hard question. That's absolutely correct, Sampath. But what you need to understand is why don't you have a good accuracy in medium questions? What is the problem? Where are we getting stuck? Is something that you need to understand. If say for example, if a student comes up and says that I can get medium questions correct, but I would need 25 minutes, then that means there's something wrong with the way that the student is solving the question. Okay, because for medium questions, if you're doing 9 medium questions and you're taking 25 minutes, then that means you're not following the right strategy. You're not following the right methodology to solve that question, be it SC, CR, or RC. There must be that there's a very good chance that there might be a conceptual gap also, that you might not be comfortable with a few topics, and that is why you're taking time. Or maybe the way that we have been taught to solve questions, like for example, in SC, we tell you to use a meaning-based approach. In CR, we have a lot of frameworks that we help you with to pre-think quickly and solve the question. Uh, in RC, we have involved you already. Obviously, in Quant, we have our own strategies, methodologies. You might not be using those properly, applying those properly to solve the question. That is why you are taking more time. Because ideally, a medium question would not. 9 questions would not take you 25 minutes. You're taking more than 2.5 minutes to solve a question, which doesn't make sense. Okay. So, what should be the ideal strategy for verbal? Now, understand that if you're targeting, and this is Sampath, I think what you were asking for, that we kind of analyzed number of ESRs, guys. Okay, we spent a lot of time understanding, okay, roughly how many medium hard questions that person might have got, trying to figure out ballpark number. If I'm looking for a 42, and these are approximations, by the way. Okay, these are not set in stone. These are just approximations which we feel. Would work out for you to score a V40 or a V41 plus. So if you notice, if you want to score a V40 or more, you would need to get about 20 to 22 questions correct of medium and medium hard level. Okay. You would be served roughly, you can see now, out of 36 questions, you are roughly served about 20 to 23 questions on medium hard. So you need to get 22 correct. If you're somebody who's looking for a V36 only or a V39 only, then your accuracy obviously doesn't need to be that high. So Sampath, I hope that answers your query. If someone also had this question, that how many questions do I need to get correct, then the answers are I would hear. Like you would, if you're getting, say, for example, 12 or 13 medium hard questions or 14 medium hard questions, you need to get about 10 correct. Okay. So if you can get about 10 medium hard correct, 9 hard correct, then you would end up getting a V36. Obviously, if your scores are, if you're targeting V34, 33, something like that, then obviously you don't need to focus a lot on hard questions. Why would you waste your time doing a lot of hard questions? Do it. But if your accuracy is not that high, that's okay. Make sure that your medium accuracy is good. Because if your medium accuracy is not good, then you would not be able to even touch a 34 or something around those. Okay, so how many questions do you need to get correct to get a V4041? This gives you a level high idea. And also, I hope you understand you need to build your strategy around what kind of accuracy you need to have for each and every kind of question. Okay. I can see a question, medium hard questions being, yeah, like you can say that. So for a medium hard questions, you would need about a 60% accuracy, I would say, closer to 60%. Uh, so what you need to understand, Samat, is that we cannot give a exact number. Okay, as I said, for 36, look at about 9 to 10 questions from medium, 9 to 10 questions from medium hard. But how many total would be there might vary depending on where are you getting those questions. Ideally, a lot of medium questions would come in the initial quarter, right? So I have to get a very good accuracy in. So that is why I'm suggesting that you should have a very solid accuracy in your medium questions. Try to have at least 75% accuracy or 80% accuracy in medium questions, so that even if your first 9 questions are all medium, you should be able to get at least 7 of them correct. Okay, so try to touch 75 to 80% of accuracy in medium questions. Medium hard, about I would say about 60% would be okay. 65% is what I would look at. Uh, so, uh, so understand now the way I was talking about. What did I mention out here? That you cannot just look at accuracy at an overall level, right? You cannot look at 7 questions. If I make 7 mistakes, I'll be able to get a 40, 41. Those kind of things will not work. What you need to understand is to get a different kind of score, your ability would vary. So if you want a 41, your ability should be your skill. The skill or ability, whatever you want to call it, should be better in medium hard questions. How does that happen? So obviously, if you're focusing on accuracy, you will not be able to figure that, because I might give you 10 easy questions, you might get all of them correct, and you'll say, hey, I have 100%, but you won't get a good score because easy questions, the weightage is not a lot. So what you need to understand is, for hard questions, just knowing the concept is never going to be important. Okay, what you need to develop is the right skill for the right kind of difficulty level of question. For hard questions, for example, if you want to get a lot of medium hard questions correct, then you need to ensure that your concept, as well as your the way you apply those concepts, application part, should be pretty good. Okay, so if you so when I say skill or when I say ability, I'm talking about your ability to get difficult questions correct. That has to improve if you're looking for a V41 under a certain time limit, which I know I still haven't answered, but I promise you I'll do that in the next 2 slides. Okay, but I just want to make you understand that if you're looking for a 700 plus, if you want to ensure that you get a V40, you have to make sure that you make the algorithm serve hard questions. Okay, that to do that, you have to ensure that in the first quarter, be it quant or verbal. I'll talk a bit about quant also later on. But in verbal, you have to ensure that your accuracy in medium and easy questions. For easy, usually I say that make sure that you have a 90% accuracy. For medium, at least 75 to 80% is what you need to target. So that in the first quarter, by mistake, even if you make 1 mistake or 2, you're still okay. There will not be a lot of problem. But if you make 4 mistakes in medium question in the first quarter only, you're done for. But what this ensures is that if you're able to get this, then the algorithm will serve you hard questions in the second quarter. And finally, obviously, if you develop your application skills really well, you would be able to get these ones correct. So your ability to get these hard questions correct will determine whether you'll end up with a 34 or a 40. Okay, the first doing well in the first quarter would ensure that you lie, and obviously assuming that your third, fourth quarter goes decently well, may ensure that you'll get a decent score. But if you're really looking for a 40, the focus should be first quarter 8 to 9 questions. I have to do with 100% accuracy if possible. Let me make the algorithm serve me hard questions in the second quarter. I'll try to get as many correct as possible in the second, third quarter, as many hard questions I can. Now, from this, I hope you understand. Now, I'm finally coming to the timing strategy here. Is I'm getting served mostly medium questions in quarter one. Okay. So as I said, it doesn't make sense for you to spend equal time or uh, 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 more time in the first quarter unnecessarily. I'll use what the word Dhaval use, which is correct. Let's go with the flow. Understand that in the first quarter, you have to solve questions on an average in because they are easier level questions. You need to solve your questions in roughly 1 minute 40 seconds. Okay, that is what ideally you need to target. And before you say, hey Saqib, I don't know where my RC is coming, it's possible that I might have my 6 questions RC. I do understand, that this is possible, but these are still medium questions. It a little bit of it might spill over in the second quarter because if your RC is somewhere between quarter one and two, but ideally your questions are of medium difficulty level, and medium difficulty level questions do not take a lot of time to solve. If you want to benchmark yourself, which I did for myself, I'm not sure how many know that I took the test recently, just to see if the GMAT has become difficult or not. So what I had the same strategy in mind. Okay, if I get a medium level question, how much time do I usually take? That is something which I had a pretty clear idea about. Like, for example, I know an easy SC question I can solve within 40 seconds to a minute. Okay, a medium SC question would take me about 1.5 minutes, not more than that. Or maybe 145 for maybe a weird question. A hard question may take me anywhere between 145 to 215. That is roughly what I usually take, or 230 maybe in some questions. Same for CR, easy, medium, hard. What kind of time do I take? Like 1.5 minutes for mostly easy, medium questions, or 2 minutes, and hard ones maybe take me 3 minutes. So I had a good clarity on what kind of time I take, and that is what is something which I would recommend also, guys, to understand your strengths, weaknesses in these areas a lot. If you want to, know more about these kind of strategies, I'll share a recording with you where I have talked about this a lot. In fact, I and Piyush were both there in the session. We were discussing about these kind of timing strategies even more in detail. Like if you want to look at SC, CR, RC, all those kind of things, I would recommend looking at this YouTube video once. Okay, but as I was saying, that make sure that you spend 140 in the first. Now, I'm irrational. I know I'm rational. I know that I'll get more difficult questions. So that is why I'm giving more time out here. I know my difficulty level would increase. So I cannot afford to spend just 140 to do these questions. I need more time because I have to ensure that I have a good accuracy in the second quarter also. So I'm not saying just go bland with 1 minute 50 seconds for each question. Take a slightly higher time. And again, this will vary. For if you get a lot of SC questions in the middle, you may be able to do them a little quickly. But if you get an RC, a difficult RC, you may use that time to, average it out to 2 minutes. Again, the difficulty will again increase. If you remember the ESR, if you want, I can go back once more, but it's again increasing the difficulty level. So again, I cannot do it 2 minutes. I'll give slightly more time in the third quarter. And I'm not saying aim for 100%. I know whatever ESRs I showed had the third quarter as 100%, but you may need more time out here also. So in verbal, what we have basically seen is how well you perform in the first three quarters kind of determine what kind of score you'll get. Okay. Now, understand if in the first three quarters I've managed to give the right amount of time, and notice I'm using the word right amount of time. I'm not saying go fast in quarter one. Okay, I mean I'm saying that in quarter one you get medium questions. Ideally, medium questions should not take you more than, depending on what you're doing, SEC or RC, anywhere between 1 minute to 1 minute 40 seconds, not more than that. So try and average out your time and make sure that you do not give more than required time in the first quarter, just because you know that this is a quarter which matters a lot. Be cautious. That's definitely there. Double check your answers. No problem in it. But don't overdo that. Don't just go about spending checking all answers again, self-doubting yourself. That is gonna backfire. Now, and now, if I look at the last quarter, you might be wondering, Sakib, very less time, 1 minute 20 seconds. What would I be able to do here? Which is okay. As I told you, last quarter, it does matter. I'm not saying it doesn't. But notice, if you notice, I kind of showed you now, even with three mistakes out here, I was able to do well. So in my last quarter, even if I have about, say, 10 to 11 minutes, roughly, and I have 9 questions, I can pick and choose, five or six questions, which I am pretty sure of. I'll try to do those questions. Okay, I'll try to ensure that I get those correct. In fact, we'll have a slightly more than 11 minutes, in fact. But my point is that I can be picky and choosy here. I can decide which ones I want to do, which ones I don't want to do. Let's say, for example, if you're good with SC, and you know that you'll be able to do SC questions quickly because they take about 1.5, 2 minutes to do it, you can take up SC questions. Okay, if you're good with RC in your last quarter, if you know that when you do an RC question, if you get 8 minutes, you can get 4 of them correct. Take 7.5, 8 minutes, try and see if you can get all those four questions correct or 5 questions correct. So that which questions you would pick and choose would depend a lot on your RC, on your strength. My bad. On your strength. I got distracted by the question. The questions: can we track time for each question? Do we need to subtract the time? You cannot track your time for each question. What I usually recommend is, and what I also did in my time when I was trying out the test was, I kind of set my milestone. Like for example, I would look at the timer after every 9 questions. Okay, after every 9 questions, I would look and see how much time do I have. Okay, like for example, after the first milestone, ideally I should have close to, if you go by the linear strategy, you'll have 48. So I'll see if I have a 52, 53 minutes in my hand or not. If I have, then well and good. But let's say after 9 questions, if I realize I'm at a 45 minutes, that means I've spent a lot of time. I've given more than 2 minutes, more than the linear strategy time also. So I need to pace up. So don't look at your how much time is left after every question. You might, the anxiety level might increase. I don't look at it. If I do that, I won't be able to concentrate on my exam. So look at it in chunks. If you want, you can, kind of create a map for yourself. You can say, okay, after 9 questions, I want 50 minutes on my thing. After 18 questions, I would want about 32 minutes on my 32, 34 minutes should be ideally left. And then on the basis of that, take a call what you need to do. Do you really need to pace up a bit, or do you have sufficient time in your hand or not? That is the way you can take your call. Okay. So Sampath, again, as I said, if RC comes in the last quarter with 3 to 4 questions, what to do in that case? It will Sampath depend on your strength. Okay, like for example, I am comfortable with RC. I know that if I give a decent amount of time in RC, I'm out of 4, I may be able to get 3 questions correct if I do it in 7 minutes. Okay, medium length. Okay, not the huge length. So if I have a medium length RC and I know that there are 4 questions out here, I would go ahead with it. I would kind of solve it. Obviously you won't know whether you have 4 questions, but I'm assuming you usually get 4, 2, 4, 2, 3 kind of passages. So if there are 4 questions and I know I'll be able to do it in 7, 6 minutes, and I have about 10 minutes in hand, I would take my chances because I'll still get 3 correct. And I'll have still 3 minutes left, 3 to 4 minutes left, and I can do maybe 2 to 3 more SC questions because there will be 2 to 3 SCs in the end. So even if I get 2 also more correct, I'll have 5. So those kind of thought last minute, that these kind of things is something that you have to experiment a bit in your mocks and see which thing you're more comfortable with. That is something I cannot choose for you. And I don't even recommend. This is something that I give feedback individually. So those of you who don't know, we have at GMAT we provide mentorships. Okay, so where each student, you can talk to us. You can talk to us and kind of discuss your strategy. So if you are, if you have any questions, if any of your students are out here, you can ask these questions separately also, and we can decide a specific strategy only for you, because those things will vary from person to person. So something where that might work for Sampath might not work for Nirmala, or might not work for Dabul. It might be completely different for all of them. So based on your performance, we kind of recommend what would work for you or what would not work for you. It also, as I said, depends on your target score. Like if you're targeting V36, I would have maybe a slightly different strategy for you. But if you're targeting a V40, slightly different. But at a high level, the timing strategy kind of doesn't change. Okay, if you're targeting a V40, V38, it will not change a lot. It would look something along these lines only. You may have more leeway in the fourth quarter of making a mistakes, depending on whether you're looking at a V36 or a V40. Uh, a few more things which I would want to add out here is, when you're practicing, try and set up these baselines. Okay, and you don't have to do all questions in 1.5 minute SC question. You don't have to do every CR question in 2 minutes. But this is like this is what you should strive for when you are in your fine tune phase. So fine tune phase is the phase when you're done with all your course questions and you are in a practice mode. Like we ask all the students to do viscous questions, the time questions, and fix their timing. In those cases, we recommend these kind of ballpark numbers. As I told you, you should have a good idea of how much time you usually take to do these kind of questions. If you don't have it, you'll not be able to create a strategy. These are some things which again mentors at GMAT will help. What I'll do is I'll share a Calendly link with you in case you're interested in discussing a strategy. Feel free to book a call. If you're preparing for GMAT, and if you are liking this strategy, if you want to know more about it, how we can help you, definitely use this Calendly link to book a call, guys. Okay. So understanding the strength and weaknesses, as I said, is pretty important. Setting up these baselines also is important, guys. Also remember that you can adjust your time a little bit by 10-20 seconds depending on your strength and weaknesses. What I mean by that is, as I said, I'm comfortable with CRC and I can do that maybe in 7 minutes, but I don't like maybe say SC a lot. I may need 20 seconds more in some of the SC questions. So I would allocate that extra time to SC and maybe save some time in CR or RC wherever I'm good at. Okay, so that again, as I said, is a little personal to you all, which you have to kind of understand based on your attempts from wherever you are preparing. Try and figure that out. See which areas you're good at, which you are not. So, which at the end of the day boils down to this part, guys. Okay, devoting the right amount of time for each difficulty level. Okay, this should happen naturally, because if this doesn't happen naturally, as Nirmal was asking, can I track time per question or quarter level, it will become very difficult for you to track your time, very difficult. So in your fine tune phase, you should take a lot of quizzes where you try and figure out. Again, I'll talk about what you should do to kind of figure this out. Don't worry. But at a high level, you should, through practice, figure out in which areas you're good at, which areas you take less time, which areas you may more time, and make sure that for standard medium questions you're taking. Also check whether for each difficulty level you're taking the right amount of time or not. If you're not, then that is the first thing that you need to fix. Okay. Um, so I'll pause here. Any questions at all? Any doubts? Is this part clear? Does this make sense? Um, I hope now it's clear why I didn't suggest the linear strategy or start heavy strategy. Why are we suggesting this? And guys, obviously we want all of you to get a V40. Doesn't make sense to target low. If you have a lower target for some reason, then it's a different thing. But aim for the best possible score. Okay, so Alec is asking, but are you sure that the first 9 questions won't include a medium hard or hard question? Good question. See, I cannot be sure. Okay, but based on whatever ESRs we have seen, and I've just shown you two, I can again go back to those ESRs very quickly. Notice that almost all ESRs would, whether you're doing well, whether you're not doing well, would hover around, start around this point. Okay, this is somewhere between medium. Notice for this also the overall difficulty level is medium. So what does this mean? Let me elaborate a bit more. That what do I mean that it is out here? What I mean by this is that you may get some medium hard question. You may get a slightly hard question. Okay, but the average difficulty level of that would hover around medium only. So for example, I might give you an easy question, okay, and I might give you a medium hard question, and kind of average it out and say that this is a medium level. Okay, so the difficulty level would come somewhere in between. So you may get one or two medium hard. I'm not saying you may not. So I'm not saying that take it. Think of it like a CR question. I'm not saying that you have to definitely believe in this fact that you will not get any CR hard or medium hard question. They might average it out. Uh, but most of the questions, in my opinion, would be medium. In my personal experience also, and this is like a very recent experience where I saw that most of the questions in the first 9 were not that. I'm not a verbal expert, by the way, just to let you know. I'm a quant expert. I understand strategy really well. I love discussing strategy, but I don't call myself a verbal expert. I had a V40, which again a decent score. And from a student perspective, also, if I have to say, if I treat myself as a student, okay, I did not find in the first 9 questions a really difficult verbal questions. Okay, there might be one or two, but most of the questions felt medium. Okay. Okay, there are a few questions. What would you do to improve it? Nimrod, I'll talk about it at the end. In fact, the YouTube link that I shared, you would find, I've talked about the RC, what do you do to improve your RC score. So I would recommend looking at that part, but I'll touch upon it at the end once when I'm talking about how to improve your skills. Okay. Vedansh is asking, okay, so if somebody gets only 1 or 2 mistakes in the first 2 quarters but scores only 50%, will that score be good? Okay, define good. Are you saying, hey, will I get a V40, 142? Maybe not. Depends what happens in the second and the third quarter. But yeah, if you do well in the first quarter, Vedansh, the only thing that I can say is the chances of getting a higher score increases. So making a 50% mistake in the first quarter versus last quarter, obviously make it in the last quarter so that your score is as high as possible. But will you get a V40 something? I hope you understand. I cannot predict. It's difficult to do that. Okay. Dhaval, see, this is a strategy which I would not recommend. Okay, that I allow myself only 60 minutes for verbal. That's up to you. If you really want to do it, do it. But why create unnecessary pressure? My point is that you have 65 minutes, take that 65 minutes. Try and understand what kind of pressure you can come in that 65 minutes. Why would I want to give myself 5 minutes less? Doesn't make sense to me, at least. If you still want to go ahead and do it, that's fine. Very quickly, I'll talk about Quant because it is along the same lines only. Um, I think there is, okay, it's not mentioned, so let me just mention it. Give me one second. So in quant, notice 14% basically means one mistake, 29% means two mistakes, 43 means three mistakes. So here we have 7 mistakes. Okay. If you look at this one, one, two, three, 6 mistakes. And you can notice the difference between these two again is of one mistake. But look at the score, it dropped by 2 points. Now, so for some of you, it might be okay, like, okay, Sakib, it's fine, 48 is still good. But for a lot of people, that's a difference between, when I say that somebody is looking for a 710 and you end up with a 690 just because of this. And you might have to take a reattempt. Why? Because you did not do well in the first 2 quarters. So here again in quant, especially by the way, in my opinion, like in verbal, as I said, that the first 3 quarters, I would still recommending everyone to do well. But in quant, the first 2 quarters like really, really, really important, very important. Again, I'm saying important. Again, I'm adding that doesn't mean that you have to give a lot of time to it. Here also, the strategy would still remain the same. Give as much time as possible. Okay. Don't think that you have to spend extra time out here. But what I'm trying to make you understand here is that in quant, what I've noticed is the penalty may be slightly higher. So the first 2 quarters, you have to, like in verbal, you are still okay making 2 to 1 mistakes in the first 2 quarter. If you're really targeting a 49.50, I would recommend not making more than 1 or 2 mistakes, ideally. Okay, if you make 3 mistakes, then it depends what you do in the third and fourth quarter. So a lot of complexities are involved. So the best way to ensure that you have a 49.50 is to make sure that in the first quarter, the best is this. Honestly, this is the best. But if you worst case, you can maybe even make 2, but not more than that. But you have to reduce somewhere here, one more mistake. Okay. Again, in quant, if you notice, last 2 quarters doesn't make a lot of difference. Um, just to make you understand here, there are 2 mistakes here and 3 mistakes here, so 5 mistakes. With 5 mistakes at the end, I have a 50, and here I have what 7 mistakes. Where's my pen? Oh, 3 here, 4 here. With 7 mistakes, okay. When I say 7, I mean if you look at total, there's 9 mistakes out here. But in the last 2 quarters, I've made 2 more mistakes, but my score, dipped by 2. Remember, in the first one, I made just 1 mistake and I dipped by 2. But in the end, even after making 2 mistakes, it's not dipping a lot. And here, in the last one, as you can see, there's a lot of mistake. This is what 6 mistakes and 3 mistakes here. So 9 mistakes out here, 11 mistakes overall. So the last 2 quarters are important if you're looking for a 49.50, but if you're looking for a 47, or if that is your target, my recommendation would be to make sure that you ace your first 2 quarters really, really well. In verbal, look at your first 3 quarters. In quant, look at your first 2 quarters. Make sure that you don't make more than 1 or 2 mistakes in the first 2 quarters. Okay, I'll pause here. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. By the way, guys, those of you are here, if you're enjoying this session, I would request you to hit a like on the YouTube this live channel, so that it reaches as many people as possible. And once again, if you want to know more about these strategies, if you want to fine tune uh, your prep, I would highly recommend booking a call with us. In fact, let me just highlight the calendar link once again. And I'm looking at some of the questions. I'm pausing here for a moment. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask. Oh, and oh, by the way, we are also running a Halloween sale. In case you, want our help, you want to figure out how to get a 740, 750, 760, you want to get mentored. Let's say, for example, I do mentorships for a lot of students. If you're interested in mentorships also, please, definitely go and check out GMAT Quiz. We are currently running a sale out here. Okay. If you want to know more about it, book a call with us, talk to us. Okay, let me look at a few questions. Sampath is saying, I made 2 mistakes in my first quarter, overall 6, still got a 51 in quant, official marks. Okay, good question, Sampath. A good point that you have raised. I'll talk about official marks a bit after this slide, okay? With how should you treat your official mock score? Fazan is saying, hey, Sagar, does GMAT also take into consideration the time one takes to answer? Correct question. If the person is answering the hard question. Fazan, I haven't seen any proof of that yet. We haven't got too much into it to figure out whether time really matters or not. I don't think it does, because even in my case, there were 2 to 3 really hard questions where I'm pretty sure I took more than 3 minutes to do, or closer to 3 minutes, and I wasn't penalized. So I don't think people do get penalized. So don't worry about the timing. Okay, that's weird. 50 in GMAT club, but a poor 46 in GMAT. If you have an ASR, feel free to share it with me. I would love to see what happened out here. But usually, people who get a 50 in GMAT Club, I'm like, okay, you don't have to worry about it. You'll definitely get a good score in the main exam. Um, okay. That is again like okay. So since there's a lot of discussion happening about mocks, I want to add just one point here. Uh, those of you who are taking your mocks or in the mock phase, in official mocks, if you're taking official mocks, that's fine. But make sure to subtract 10, 20 points from whatever you're getting in the official mocks. So, for example, if you are targeting, if you have taken official mock and if you ended up with a say 740, then you may end up anywhere between 720 to 740 because the scores that you get in the official mock is slightly higher. That is what you have noticed in the past 1.5 years. So what we are usually saying is that take your official scores also with a pinch of salt. Okay, don't think that it is definitely if I've got a 740 in the official mocks, I'll end up with a 740 in the actual one. And what Sampath has pointed out is exactly what is happening. People with six mistakes are getting a Q51 in the official mock. But believe me, guys, you will not get a Q51 with six mistakes in the actual exam. I can guarantee you that. We've seen numerous ESRs. The best case that I've seen where you end up with a 51 was about a month back, where somebody made one mistake in the first quarter, one mistake in the last quarter, and that is something that I've seen the last 2 years. In most of the cases, people with two mistakes usually end up with a 50. In 50 also there are numerous levels, by the way, guys. So you must have seen people with two same scores getting a different overall total score, right? With the Q50 V40, somebody might get a 730, somebody might end up with a 740. That happens because of depending on how much are you scoring, what kind of a 50 that is, or what kind of a 40 that is. So my point, long story short, I don't want to confuse you, is whatever you're getting in the actual official mock, make sure that you subtract 10, 20 points from it. Okay. If you're thinking that, okay, I make six mistakes in the official mock, I'll get a 51, then in the main exam, that's going to happen. No. I've seen 51 with one mistake or zero mistakes. And as I said, very rarely that one case that I saw 2 months back with two mistakes with a Q51. Otherwise, I haven't seen a Q51 with two mistakes also recently, at least. Okay. So I hope, Sampath, that answers your query why you might have got it. See, as far as mocks are concerned, free mocks, I hope you understand. You're looking for something which is free, which is good, which is close to GMAT. Very difficult to get something like that. What I usually recommend is obviously if you want to use the official mocks, do it, but make sure that you subtract 10, 20 points from it, as I said. Apart from that, everyone has one free mock. Take those, try and see which one you're liking. Like we also have one free mock. You can try it out and check it whether by the way, our mocks give very detailed results. Just to let you know, guys. Like the way I'm talking about these ESRs, we tell you what to do next, which areas you're not doing well in, what should be the next plan of action. Those kind of things are also told by us in our mocks. So maybe you can try that if you want to. Okay. So I hope this part is clear about the last 15 questions. Let me very quickly move on to the next part, which is, again, I'm sure you must be interested in knowing about the timing aspect. So I'll very quickly go through it. This is something which I've already said, so I'm just quickly moving from here. So long story short, first 15 questions in quant matters a lot. But that doesn't mean that you cannot have a good accuracy in the third quarter. You need to maintain a decent accuracy in the third quarter also. Okay. In the last quarter, obviously, same goes for verbal, same goes for quant. If you're short on time, choose questions selectively. Try not to make consecutive mistakes. That is like very, very important. And the second point, which is mentioned here, this one is valid for both quant and verbal. Please don't leave any questions. Okay, make sure that you attempt all the 36 and 31 questions in quant and verbal. If you're not sure about an answer, just mark something and move on to the next question, but make sure that you mark all of them. Vedansh, you need to go to mba.com and from there you can purchase it. You can just Google it. Just simply Google, official mocks mba.com and you'll be able to get the link. Okay. Let's talk about timing strategy. Here also notice we are using the same kind of a structure. Oh, let me just kind of remove this very quickly. One sec, guys. So notice again out here, if you're doing a medium question, it should not take you, a minute and a half or 1 minute. And again, keep in mind that you might get some easy, some medium hard question. They might average it out because someone asked about this. So I'm just letting you know now, it's quite possible. But the timing should be like this, that you should spend about 1 minute 30 seconds, 1 minute 40 seconds, not more than that. I've seen people spend 2 minutes here, then 2:30 here, 2:40 here, and then hardly left with any time at the end. 1 minute 2 seconds, 1 minute 3 seconds, and that becomes a problem. So here also the graph moves up, and logically your timing should move in the same way. So now we are getting medium hard to hard questions, so obviously you need more time. The moment you start getting very hard questions, you need more time. One observation which I made, and that is something which I have discussed in one of the webinars. In fact, let me just share that with you. Give me 1 sec. Uh, is that what I've noticed is, in fact, guys, I think last time I shared that video only, this one. Let me share it again. In fact, I'm sharing two of them. I would highly recommend looking at both of them. 1 sec. See, and I would recommend looking at this one, where from where you'll understand about, when I say you're getting hard questions, what do I mean by that? When you're getting easy questions, or when I say hard, very hard, what do I exactly mean by that? Is something that I've discussed in this YouTube video that I've shared with you. This one. Okay. If you want to know more about, in general, about verbal, by the way, I would recommend looking at this one. This is the one where Piyush and I had a discussion elaborately on how do you determine your strengths, your weaknesses? How do you go about creating the right strategy for verbal, not only from timing perspective, but in general also. So this is just related to time, so I'm talking about time. So I'll highly recommend looking at both these videos. But of the observation that I wanted to talk about is that I've noticed that when I say hard, it's not necessary that you'll get hard. I've noticed in quarter three also, you might get a very easy question in the middle somewhere. And so if you get something like that, please don't panic, guys. Okay, don't panic, then think that, okay, I've got a very easy question. Am I not doing well? Am I not getting a 48, 49? Don't worry about it. There's a very good chance that they might be averaging it out. So you might get a super hard question somewhere in between. Okay, a very hard question somewhere in between, and they'll average it out and make it hard. So just be mentally prepared that you may see some easy questions in the middle also, somewhere here or there in the second, third, and fourth quarter also, and they would balance that out with uh, harder, very hard questions. Here also the same strategy works. If it's an easy question, take a minute. Medium question, 1.5 minute. Hard question, medium could be 1.5 to 2 minutes, by the way. Hard question can take anywhere between 2 to 2.5 minutes. A very hard, maybe 3 minutes. But you, as I said, you need to average it out. Um, in third and fourth quarter, I would recommend looking at areas that you are more comfortable with, trying to understand your strength. Like, I've known people who come and say that I am not good at, say, coordinate geometry, what should I do? Or I don't like PNC, what should I do? Ideally, my recommendation is complete each and every topic. Be in a state where you are comfortable solving at least easy medium questions 100%. Okay, if after that, depending on your target score, decide how much you want to improve in how many topics. So if you want a Q50, almost all topics are non-negotiable, except maybe one or two somewhere here or there. If you're not good at, we are okay with it. But if you're looking at a 48 or a 47, you don't have to be awesome in PNC or coordinate. Again, don't take this as an extreme statement and leave PNC and coordinate. All I'm trying to say is still make sure that you're good with, you can solve confidently easy and medium questions. Okay. And third is like the most important point. In fact, I saw a few questions in my paper where the DS question answer options were pretty obvious C traps. Like they are giving me two very obvious statements, which if I know, if I combine, I'll definitely be able to get my answer. In such cases, I usually pause and ask myself, hey, this looks like a very obvious C answer. Can I get my answer from either A or, statement one or statement two? Let me check that. There's a good chance that my answer might be A or B only. Okay. When I'm about to mark answer E, I double check that I do. So if it's a what is the value kind of question, I do check whether I have two different answer options with me or not. If I don't have it, then that means I am guessing here. I need to make sure that I have two different answers. Then only I'll mark E. So those kind of things you need to do, best practices to ensure that you are uh, marking the right answers for the right reasons. The last part is optional. If your calculations are pretty good And let's say if you make calculation mistakes also, both in both these cases, frequent calculation mistakes, and if you know two methods of solving a particular question, maybe just maybe you can, if you have time in your hand, try and solve the question in two ways. Like for example, maybe for a division that you're trying to simplify something, and maybe you have approximated and got the answer somehow just to mark something. If you have time, maybe do use the usual division method and also check it whether you're getting exactly the same answer or not. There's no harm in doing that. Or if you are doing, say, uh, a percentage or P&L question, maybe one method could be taking values, but if you want to be double sure and you're especially in the first two quarters, if you have a little bit of time, maybe take a variable and check very quickly, or maybe take another value and check it very quickly whether you're getting the same answer or not. So these kind of things that I definitely recommend doing. Okay, so as far as the timing strategy is concerned, guys, is everything clear from the perspective of quant, from verbal? If you have any questions, please feel to ask. And then I'm going to talk about how to reduce time, and I'm going to take a use case because I know whatever I say, it's best to show you proof of that. That will help you understand why whatever I'm saying makes sense. But any questions at this point of time, please post it in the chat box. I'll be more than happy to take it up. So far, I think I've answered all questions. But if there's anything else, please let me know. We are running a little short on time, so I will move on. If you have any questions, please post it, and I'll take it in between. So, how do you reduce your time per question? That's a very common question. Now, based on my understanding of whatever, as I said, since we look at a lot of data points on a daily basis while talking to students, there are two very obvious kind of problems. Okay, one is conceptual issue. Okay, so let's say, for example, if you've done all your concepts, you've completed your course, and you're moving in the fine-tune phase, and you're getting the questions correct, but you're taking a lot of time to do it. Uh, then there is a good chance that, or if you're getting a question incorrect, also that could fall in that could be a problem. But if you're taking a lot of time, try and identify those kind of topics where you're taking more time. And let's say even if you're getting those incorrect, if after taking time, if you're getting this incorrect, and let's say these questions are, say, easy or medium type, then that clearly means there's a concept related problem. Your concept is still not clear, that is why you're still making mistakes in easy and medium questions, and you're still taking a lot of time. Okay, so I've given you clear indicator. Okay, so you cannot come up and say I don't know how to figure it out. I'm telling you, look at your easy medium question. Easy, do you have a 90% accuracy in each and every topic? Medium, do you have a 75-80% accuracy in each topic? Are you able to do easy medium questions in 1.5 minute or not? These are the solid data points that I'm giving that you can actually look at from wherever you're practicing and check. And if the answer is no, then figure out what kind of topics are those, because those are the areas where you have to go back and revise the concept. That's like very, very important. I've written some topics. For example, I've seen people making a mistake in boldface questions, PNC, comparison. They come up and say, I'm taking extra time. I'm still making mistakes in easy medium questions. Very good chance that the concept is still not clear. You're not applying it in the right way. You're making the wrong comparisons. Uh, you're comparing a person with an action or those kind of things. You're making mistakes, getting confused between ads versus like those kind of mistakes. If you're still making which are basic, which have been taught, then that means you are have a conceptual issue. There are application-based issues also. So let's say, for example, you're doing really well, but when it comes to hard questions or medium hard questions, you are taking, say, so instead of taking 3 minutes, maybe you are taking 4 or 5 minutes to solve that question, and you may be getting it correct or incorrect. It can fall in both bucket because here the accuracy is, we assume the accuracy would be slightly low. But if you fall in that category and if you're taking more time, there's a good chance that you're not applying the process properly. And I talked about process a while back, right? There's a good chance that you might not be if you're solving an SC question, you might be just skimming through the answer choices, trying to find out the differences and marking the answer instead of, for example, using the proper meaning-based approach to solve the question. In a CR, you might have read the stimulus, okay, but you might have not understood what exactly are you trying to strengthen or weaken. And then in the 5 options, you're thinking, okay, A option A also looks good, C also looks good, D also look good, but you're not sure which one to choose because you don't know what's the conclusion. You're not sure what to strengthen or weaken, right? So those kind of problems, application based problem might happen. And if that is the case, these are things, again, as I said, most you can figure out on your own also, or you can use a mentor. Like in our case, we point out these kind of things also. So you can through this differentiation, you can figure out what is your exact problem, whether it is conceptual related issue or application. Okay, so let's take the concept thing. Concept is pretty simple. If you have a concept related issue, as I said, you have to revise. There's no other option. Revise, solve a few questions, 10 questions or 15 questions at a time, and identify why are you still taking more time. Okay, what are the things that you're still not comfortable with? Maybe you have learned a new method that you're still not comfortable with. Like in special equation, I've taught a way of finding all the answers very quickly, all the cases quickly. Maybe you are not still comfortable with that. Well, so while doing this question, understand what is that discomfort, so that you can practice more questions of the same type. Okay, once you've identified the areas where you're taking more time and you're actively working on it, then you can solve questions of 30, 40 questions in sets of 10, bunches of 10, and then gradually reduce time. The biggest mistake that I've seen students make is that they focus on concept and time at the same time. I get on calls with students and they'll tell me, I need to solve questions in 2 minutes and I'm taking three and a half, 4 minutes and I'm getting 60% of or 50% accuracy. That's not going to work. And as I said, I'm going to show you proof for that. Okay, so I have a use case where you'll exactly see what I'm talking about. The first thing that you should ideally do is get your concepts in place. Once the concepts are in place, once you're 100% sure there are no conceptual problems, you know how to apply the concept really well. You've understood the variations also, uh, understood the new methodology. Then only once you're comfortable with it, you can solve more questions to get used to the methodology. Once you get used to a methodology, you know it becomes intuitive. It's like 2 + 2 = 4 kind of a thing. You're able to do it pretty quickly. Okay, and as I said, I wanted to show you a case. So I'm going to talk about Manish. He has a 720. In fact, he converted both NCERT and Kellogg. Is in Kellogg now. Okay. He improved his timing by following this approach. So when he started off his prep, and I'm going to show you his dashboard, so don't think I've just written a number out here. Okay, when he started off his learning process, going through the concepts, trying to learn the imbibe all the concepts, he used to take about 3.5 minutes per question when he was doing this all the conceptual questions, practice quiz, a booster quizzes. He was taking 3.5 minutes, but he didn't panic. Okay, a lot of people panic. They kind of wonder, what do I do? Can I spend this much amount of time? But that's okay. I'm saying take whatever time that you need when you are preparing, when you're learning the concept. Even if it takes 5 minutes, take it. Okay. But what you need to do is, which what Manish did was he reviewed the solution in depth. So if it took 3.5 minutes, he tried and understood, he tried to understand why, in what was the area where was he taking more time? What was he missing out on the in that question? So if it's a DS question, was he not doing the pre-analysis properly? Did that take time? Was he, taking was he just using random values to solve the question, and maybe that was taking time? What was the exact problem? So that is something that you have to do for yourself also, because once you're done with the course or once you're in the fine-tune phase, if you have identified your gaps well, if you have identified which concept that you're not doing well, if you identify what kind of mistakes you made, like tell me guys, how many of you out here uh, miss out on constraints in quant questions, like x and y are positive integers, or these kind of things? How many of you do that? A quick yes. I've been doing a monologue for a long time, so uh, and this is an interesting question. So I would want to know how many of you make these kind of mistakes. Later on, realize, hey, I made a silly mistake. I made a silly mistake. I missed out on this small part. It's given that x is a positive integer, or something like that, or x is prime. Okay. And meanwhile, I look at some of the chat questions. Uh, Suresh, it depends. If you have the answer in front of you and if you know the methodology, then mark and move on. Now, if you're not sure of the methodology and how to solve the question, if you don't know after 1.5 minutes, if you don't know how to go about doing it, be it a DS or PS question, then ideally you should mark and move on. But keep in mind that you cannot do that a lot. Okay. Probability in combination, I'm just not able to improve. Please guide. I would recommend looking at the video lesson. I hope you understand that we have created a huge course on PNC probability, like describing all various kind of cases that can come. So if you really want to improve it, I would highly recommend looking at GMAT with PNC part. Okay. Yes, this video will be on YouTube. You can watch it and later on also, not a problem. Okay, so I can see three people saying, me, I do sometimes, I do 25 + 16, 31 for these. Yes, I do understand. These kind of mistakes are quite common, but it is very important to know that. That's a good thing that you know, because Manish did the same thing, identified what kind of mistakes you're making. Like when I am marking a DS question or I'm finally marking an answer, I've made it a a point to look at the question stem once more and be 100% sure that I've covered everything. Like if it's a how many cases kind of question, or it's a DS question where I'm about to mark a C or a E, I do check, okay, I'm getting multiple cases, or I'm getting that's about I'm about to mark E. I hope I haven't missed any constraint in the question stem. I do check that. Ideally, write it in the first go only, but sometimes maybe you might miss out. Again, ideally, first case it shouldn't happen, but if it happens, double check. So these are processes that you set up in your system once you understand what kind of mistake you make. Okay, so identifying that is pretty important, and then you work on it. And it's an iterative process, guys. You cannot lose patience. So, for example, you work on a few areas, then you take some quizzes, then you realize, okay, 60% fixed, still 40% part of is left that I need to improve. Then you work on that, then you kind of improve it. So this is something which I want to show, at least in Manish case. So at least you'll understand there are people who end up with a 700 plus. And honestly, I think Manish could have hit a 740 where we were just running out of deadline. He had to apply to both these schools. So we went ahead with 720 only. But yeah, look at his, this is when he started off his prep. Okay. Notice his average time. 3 minutes, 4 minutes, 3 minutes to solve a question correctly, 4 minutes to solve a question incorrectly when he was preparing, when he was learning the concepts. But if you'll notice his score, if I draw a line somewhere, I know it's a little crooked line, but somewhere all of his scores are close to 80 or 78. He was good with all these skills. Notice, I'm not sure how clearly you can see this, but this is simplify, consider cases, reduce logically. We score you on these also. These are skills which I try to understand where you make mistakes. So are you somebody who misses a lot of cases? If your score is 74 and if your DS score is also less, that's a kind of a correlation. We can say, hey, you are somebody who might be missing out on cases and marking C and E a lot. And then we look at a question level and we see you're exactly doing that. So these kind of analysis is something that we provide. That's number one. Number two, you can create your own dashboard, not a problem, but you have to analyze these things properly. And notice I'm not worrying about the time at all. Manish wasn't worried about the time. He wanted to make sure that his concept is solid. And that is what I would recommend everyone to do. Same goes for verbal. This is verbal. Again, you can notice very good scores concept-wise, all close to 80s. This is a little less in RC, it would be around 70s. But look at the timing. You can see, right? Now anybody can panic. But we did not. What we did was we tried and identified what are the areas that he needs to work more in. So, for example, we understood, okay, interest is one area, PNC is one area. Say, for example, 60s are still fine. Estimation is one area that you're not maybe doing well in. Here, notice in verbal, thankfully everything was good. So, main point structure, maybe if you want to improve, you're very finicky. We want to improve in these areas and try and do well in. So, these are areas where we have conceptual issues. His concept is still not good. So, we wanted to make sure that we improve his concept in these places. Okay, that's how you identify that you improve your concept. Okay, and once you solidify those concepts, then you, as I told you, you have to move in the fine tune phase. You have to reduce your time. Notice how many quizzes did he take to improve his timing. And it's an iterative process. You can notice he took a lot of quizzes in November itself. I could not pace all of them, but if you can understand, to improve his timing, he worked on his timing and his strategy in the last aspect. And look at his GMAT scores. It went on increasing. Why? Because we understood where are his conceptual gaps, fixed it. We understood where are the process gaps, what kind of mistakes that you make while you're solving question, fixed it. Took a mock, then we take a mock. Okay, we kind of figure out what is still that is left to be fixed. We again go back, fix that, come again, and then take another test. So you can see he had a 740 here. In fact, in mock also had a 750. But finally he ended up, but still he ended up with a 720, which I think is a pretty good score, pretty balanced score. Okay. But the takeaway from this, guys, is I hope you understand that in the initial phase, if you worry about your time, you are not going to do well. That is guaranteed. And I'm going to give you an example. How many of you do this, guys? You're solving a question, you read a question stem quickly. Okay, you get an understanding of it. You eliminate 2-3 answer choices. Okay. Now you're stuck between 2 to 3 answer choices. How many of you are in such a situation? And what do you do in such situations? And this is again related to timing. So I really want to cover this part, and I think this is a kind of a very important aspect. How many of you, and especially in verbal, obviously this happens a lot, not more in quant, but you read. So for example, here there's an RC, you read very quickly, get a rough understanding of CR, you read very quickly, understand and eliminate answer options, and then you're stuck with. And if you're stuck between 2 to 3 answer choices, what do you do? Can anyone tell me what would you do if you're stuck between two answer choices? Two or three answer choices. What would be your next step? Anyone? And these are things I'm pretty sure a lot of you do. So, and again, don't feel shy. Please share if what do you exactly do in such situation. That's not a problem. That way, you'll understand whether you do the right thing or the wrong thing. Okay, look for traps. So, how do you do that? Do you go back to the question stem and look at it? Do you, for example, again reread the answer options? What strategy do you use? Go back to the stem, right? And this is what I actually have. You usually reread the question. You usually go back through the answer choices. Now understand how much time are you wasting out here. Okay, and because if you're wasting a lot of time, then you realize, okay, let me mark something. And again, a very common problem, I'm sure most of you will accept it. How many of you have talked to your mentors and said, always stuck between two answer options, I don't know which one to mark, right? I'm sure a lot of you might have been in that situation. Understand what you're trying to do here. You're trying to read very quickly. You want to save time. You want to save time, so you are doing these very quickly. You're reading it in 20, 30 seconds, getting a high level understanding of it. You're eliminating this answer in 2, 3 options in 20, 30. You're feeling very good. Yeah, 1 minute, I'm almost, I just need to choose a few more. I'm almost done. But what you're not understanding is that here you are wasting about 1.5 to 2 minutes. You're wasting your time. And because of this, you are spending 2 to 3.5 minutes. So any of you who fall in this category, the major mistake that you're making is in the first step. You want to save time, you're worried about time, and then you want to fix it, but you're using the wrong way of doing it. Ideally, the extra time that you are taking here and the extra time that you're taking here should be spent here only. You should be able to for example, if you need 40 to 60 seconds here, just and if that can ensure that you can understand the stimulus really well, I'm taking a CR example at this point of time, you understand the stimulus really well, and you would have a good clarity on what's the premise, what's the counter premise, what's the conclusion, and you would have a good clarity on what you need to strengthen or weaken, evaluate those kind of question. Then eliminate, you won't have to reread everything again and again. You don't have to read at least the choice. You don't have to double guess your choice. You may have to go back to verify something. That's still fine. Verifying is not a problem. That, okay, I'm stuck between two, I just need to verify one particular thing. That's okay. But if you have to go back and read it to understand, okay, what exactly was I trying to do? Happens with students. If you fall in that category, then you're following the wrong approach. Try to focus more on understanding the stimulus first. That is why it's a first step in be it SCCR or RC, whatever you're doing. Okay. So the right approach would be to, first of all, as I said, understand the methodology for SC, for CR, for RC. What are we suggesting? Because these are tried and tested method guides. This is not something that we have done recently. I gave an example of Manish with 720, but we have people like Mandar, we have people like Rishabh, Shreyas, 770, 760, 760. All of these people followed these strategy only. There's nothing different. The reason I took Manish's example because I wanted to do this time aspect, but all of these people with the 770, 760 made sure the number one thing was they're clear with the concept, number one, non-negotiable, and they understood how to approach this question and apply it rigorously. Yeah, because it's a new method, you will take time. I'm pretty sure, early days, even multiplication division must have been a challenge for you, but now it is not, right? Why is that? Because you've done it so many times. So if you want to get good at a particular methodology, you have to spend time on it. You cannot just come up and say, Sakib, I'm using this method, but it takes a lot of time. So let me go back to some hacky solution. If you fall in that category, it will be very difficult to improve. You'll keep on iterating again and again and again and never know where to improve. Okay. So it is, guys, really important that you focus on improving and getting used to the methodology. Why am I saying this? You might ask, because there's a timing session, right? I'm saying this because if you master your methodology, if you master your concept really well, learning the application, and you practice really well, then you will automatically be able to know reduce time, because now you're used to the methodology. Now you know what you do. So when you're reading an SC question, initially maybe you will have to force yourself to understand the meaning, force yourself to look for the subject verb or the modifier, modified entity, those kind of stuff. But after a certain point of time, it becomes intuitive. You read and it automatically comes in your mind. Okay, it's saying this. So basically, okay, there's a modifier, there's an ing modifier, whatever it is. Okay, so if there's an and, there's a list. Those kind of things will automatically, intuitively start coming. But what people usually do is this. The they keep on moving like this, and not using the approach. By the way, you learn a concept, you practice 30-40 questions, you realize your score is not good, you think your concept is bad, then you again go learn the concept, you again do the same thing. But what you're not doing is you're not focusing on this important part of understanding the approach. So my advice would be, guys, so if you want to do well, review the solutions. Even if you get it correct now, review the solutions. There could be a better method given there that can help you save time. That is how we also improved it when we were 10 years back as students. If you when you had to improve our quant, we did that. Even if you used to get the answer, we used to spend time and look at the solution. Maybe there's a better way, I'll be able to save time, let me do that. Okay, so major key takeaways, guys. Number one is uh, timing is important. The first few quarters are important. A lot of people, when they hear that the first 2 quarters are important, they give a lot of time there. But understand, devoting extra time doesn't mean that you'll get high accuracy. You have to give the right amount of time, which I've already talked about. You have to make sure that you understand your timing aspect also. Easy, medium, hard. Fix that so that you can intuitively be able to solve questions keeping the right amount of time. So give a time that give the right amount of time to that particular question. So if you get 4 hard questions in the middle, you know that you will take 10 minutes to maybe do it, and you won't be able to complete in 6 minutes, but you cannot rush. Okay, so first 2 quarters are important. Give it time, but give it time 140, 150, and then 2 to 10. That is the strategy that you should ideally follow. Okay, if you were really looking to reduce your time, don't just practice blindly. I have always said maintain a error log. When I say error log, people just simply think correct, incorrect. No, write down in the comment section or create separate columns where you write down why did you eliminate your correct answer, what was going in your mind, were you thinking a lot, why did you mark the incorrect answer, be it an SC question, did you miss out on a particular type of error. You'll notice a pattern. You might realize that in each and every question you are making mistake in parallelism questions, or you might not be good with a particular kind of a modifier that you need to work on, or is it every time an idiom mistake. But what is it? If you don't understand really well, you will not be able to fix it. If you're not able to fix it, you'll not be able to improve your time. Okay, this is again just to be on the safe side. I wanted to mention it. Those of you who are taking the exam now, don't change your building the strategy takes time. Okay, you take a lot of mocks, you try and understand which strategy works for you, and then you finally do it, apply it. But don't change your strategy on the main day. I have people coming up and telling me that, okay, I was doing quant first, verbal second, but I decided to change switch. That's the wrong strategy. Number two, in verbal, you might say, hey, I was doing well in the mock, but in quant in the main exam, I got conscious, so I started giving more time than usual, and then that messed up my timing strategy. Whatever works for you is the strategy, is that what you need to follow. Don't change that strategy in the main exam. Okay. uh, the number 4 point is a little important point. If you feel anxious during the test, like for example, I know it since I've talked about it, and after doing the first quarter, you might have a feeling that okay, I've made 2 mistakes or 3 mistakes, but Sakib told me to make 1 or 2, so maybe I'm not going to get a V40, or I won't be able to get a Q50. That's fine, but you're already there in the test, right? What would you prefer, a V40? If you're not getting a V40, are you okay with a V30? Why not try and salvage a little bit and see whether you can get a V36 or not? Why go for V30? Just because you messed up your first quarter, three, you just instead of making 2, you made 3 mistakes. Try it out. Again, as I said, it's an adaptive test where you make a mistake will also determine a lot of things. Okay, so don't guess during the exam. Don't doubt yourself in the exam that maybe I'm not doing well or maybe I'm doing well. As I said in my quant, I was getting easy questions in the middle. If I would have thought, okay, I'm getting easy, so I won't be able to get a Q50, I might have given up. But I ended up getting a 51. I made one mistake, okay, but everything was fine after that. So I cannot second guess in the exams. If you're feeling anxious, maybe 10, 15 seconds, if you want to take a strategic timeout, pause, just to clear your mind, try and remember what I'm saying to you now. Try to convince yourself, okay, 3 wrong, no problem. There's still 27 questions. I'll give my best. I'll try and maybe I might make just one, 2 mistakes in quarter, and then that may still help me get a V40. It's quite possible. You don't know. It all depends on the streak of questions that you're getting correct. Okay, so these what I've told you today is best practices, but this is the point that I mentioned. A streak of consecutive questions correct, it makes a lot of difference. So don't just rely on first quarter and get too worried. Obviously, you have to do well, but in the main day, there are n number of things that may go wrong. So don't just give up and think that I'll let me get a low score if I'll take it the other time. You might never know. You might end up with a good score. So give your best till the end and then take a call what you need to do, whether you need to take it again or not. Okay, this is very very important, guys. Spend more time on reading. I've been repeating this a number of times to a lot of students. If you don't do this well, thinking that I'll save time, you'll never save time. I can guarantee you that you'll never. Okay, and obviously these are strategies that it. So at the end of the day, it's all about concept and processes. If your concept is not in place, if your process is not in place, you can come and ask me about 10 different strategies. I won't be able to help you out if you don't know how to solve questions. If you want to really be prepared for the test, make sure that uh, make sure that your applications and concepts are in place, and then worry about timing strategies and the strategies in the fine tune phase. Okay, so guys, that's it from me. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. I'm there for another 5-10 minutes. I'll be more than happy to take any questions. Once again, if you like this session, I would request you to kindly hit the like button. And if you're preparing for GMAT and if you want to know how we can help, we have 2 month plans also. So maybe if you're about to take your exam in R2. By the way, Manish was an R2 student. Okay, Manish took it in R2. We took his exam in December, and uh, he applied for INSEAD and Kellogg in Jan. So if you want to take an exam, if you're planning to take an exam in November, December, if you're looking for a short-term plan also, how we can help. If you have 4 to 8 weeks in hand, if you want to know what we can do, we definitely book a call, and we'll help you out. Okay, and do let me know whether you like this session or not. I hope you learned something from it, and I hope you apply it. Okay. Okay, so I don't see any questions in the chat box, so I'm going to end the broadcast now. But feel free to ask your question in the chat in the comments, and I will try to get back to you if you have anything. And we have you can see the email ID on the screen. We have the phone number on the screen. If you want to get in touch with us later on, also please feel free to write to us or give us a call. Okay. Last thing, we are running a Halloween sale, so if you want to. Look at the plans. I'm just sharing the plan with you very quickly to take a look at it, guys. Thanks a lot, Alak. I'm glad you find this insightful, guys. Um, any feedback is welcome. If you are a GMAT student, yes, it's free. If you are not, then book a call through the Calendly link, and then the support team will Piyush will take a call. Okay, Piyush will take your call basically. But any GMAT students can talk to me. Okay, so if that is your question, then yes, you can. Okay, guys, I don't see any more questions, so I'm ending the session. Have a great day, guys. Bye. Take care.